Welcome everybody to back to WBA TV. My name is Brian Smith. I am the marketing manager at the Wireless Broadband Alliance, and I'm very happy to be sitting here today with Ravi Shankar from STL, a great member company of WBA and an enthusiastic sponsor and supporter of our Wireless Global Congress events. Ravi, welcome. I'm happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. Indeed, happy to talk about what we're doing at STL and what we're doing in this industry as well.
Sounds great. So let's get right into it then, Ravi. So to start off, can you just give us a little bit of background on yourself and on STL, please?
Sure. So I'm Ravi Shankar. I'm heading the product management and marketing function for network software business. At STL, we have been building software from network all the way to the BSS OSS. We are an industry-leading integrator of the digital networks. Our fully 5G, already digital network solutions help telcos, cloud companies, citizen networks, and large enterprises deliver enhanced experiences to their customers. STL provides integrated 5G-ready end-to-end solutions ranging from wired to wireless, from silicon to software, from design to deployment, connectivity to compute through our core capabilities in optical interconnect, virtualized access solutions, Wi-Fi, access points, and network software. So that's a very quick introduction of STL, Brian.
That's perfect. Thank you. So let's get right into it then, Ravi. Let's get into the real meat of this interview then. Let's start off with this one. How can businesses monetize spectrum management using Wi-Fi offloading?
So first of all, if I talk about monetization, I think let's first of all talk about why the spectrum management, right? And we always talk about looking at 4G, 5G across the world, managing the spectrum, and actually spectrum is pretty expensive. So managing the spectrum becomes really challenging. This is one of the biggest CAPEX area in many of the markets for the operators, and they have to use this efficiently. But what it means for operators is in many pockets, they find that there's a lot of density, there's a lot of consumption, and where your 4G particularly and coming up with 5G, you'll have to be selective with how you use the network, how you use the spectrum that is available to you. And very often, telcos look at offloading from 4G or 5G to Wi-Fi, in case of 5G because of the dense network and also because of the indoor connectivity. But in case of 4G, because of the density and because of there's some areas, some pockets in every part of the world which are very dense and where people have challenges in connectivity as well. So when you look at this, when operators look at a spectrum, the most important part is how do I make money out of it, right? And while one side of this coin is making money, the other side is experience as well. So what we have seen recently is the data demand has exponentially increased if you look at it, right? And primarily because of the fact that people are consuming a lot more data than they were, right? They're using smart devices, they are working from home, students, communities, small, large businesses. So the data consumption has exploded and people are spending a lot of time on the smart devices, on intelligent devices. And from operator perspective, if I go beyond customer experience, how do I make money out of it? How do I get ROI for all the money that I'm spending in? And we see that Wi-Fi becomes a very, very important tool for them to do so, because what they can do is they can actually go 5x faster in Wi-Fi with respect to the experience that they want to provide. But at the same time, they can monetize that through advertising, through bandwidth on demand, through focusing on the enterprise customers. So monetization becomes very critical from an operator perspective while looking at the customer experience from the consumer perspective.
What challenges can arise for businesses who monetize their spectrum management using Wi-Fi offloading, and how can these challenges be addressed?
So if I bring it first of all into what are the challenges, right? And if you look at Wi-Fi offloading, prima facie, there are two technologies that come into picture, right? One is NDSF-based offloading, right? And NDSF, so if you're thinking of seamless offloading, NDSF is an older technology where people have used this with some intelligence on the device to be able to offload. And the second very prominent technology is the hotspot 2.0, right? Is really the passpoint, using the passpoint certified devices. Now, the challenge is really to decide when to offload, right? And when to offload from Wi-Fi to LTE or 5G or vice versa, right? In both the cases, you need to know the switching point, and that's where you need intelligence. So the intelligence is the key in both the cases where you're using on the older technology like NDSF, or whether you're looking at Hotspot 2.0 or Passpoint certified devices. And the third very important aspect is the kind of control you have on the access controller. So you have access point, and your access controller could be sitting on premise in telco cases or in public cloud, and how much control, how much intelligence you can derive from the access point as well. So there are three parts of it, right? If you think of a device where you have some intelligence, there's an access controller, access point, and then you have network, right? And being able to derive the intelligence to be able to make that switch becomes very challenging very often. So that's the challenge. If I look at what could be a solution, right? And I would say it depends on which technologies again you choose. If you're going with NDSF, you would need to have a device-based intelligence, because you need to know what's happening with the network. What is the jitter quality? What is the uplink speed? What is the downlink speed? But not just that, you need to know which device the user is coming from, right? What kind of operating system they are coming from. And all of this combined with the intelligence, combined with the ability to seamlessly, because you don't want to bring any friction, right? You don't want to bring friction, particularly in a normal use case. So removing that friction becomes challenging. And in order to remove, you need to select, first of all, technology, and then you need to select your use cases very clearly, which use cases you need to focus on. Hotspot 2.0 Passpoint certainly makes this simpler, as we know, because of wider adoption and because of making it seamless as well. And it also looks at the security aspect that we must not forget in the process. So maybe that's a very quick view of challenges and solution, and we can dig deeper, obviously, here if you want to, Brian. Yeah.
Well, absolutely, and I think, Ravi, what I'd like to do now is ask about what it comes down to for the customer connectivity experience, because I think anyone would agree that making sure your customers are happy and getting great connectivity is the most important thing. But how important do you think that effective spectrum management solutions are in terms of delivering an enhanced customer connectivity experience?
So they're critical primarily because in most of the markets, users are very sensitive, right? And in 3G, into 4G, we have seen that the data connectivity that we were providing was based on a best effort base. It was not guaranteed, right? So the concept of guarantee started coming up with 6 and with 5G and with Wi-Fi 6 and 7. So what happens is when you are giving, and when data is becoming so critical to the people, to the extent that very often their livelihood could be dependent, if you think of people as well, in unstructured economies, data becomes very critical, and equally critical is the seamless experience that you want to provide to the users, because if not, then they will switch on to the another operator. They will switch to another network altogether, right? And that's where a lot of focus, a lot of effort goes in at STL. We look at, where exactly the friction will come and how we can reduce that friction, how we can make it seamless for the users, for the end users, who we want to make sure that they're always connected. And they're using the right spectrum, they're using the right access technology based on where they are, what they're consuming, and what they intend to do.
That makes a lot of sense, Ravi. Thank you for that. I guess that would make me go into my next question then. What do you think are the best possible ways to alleviate the CAPEX burden of meeting data demand for large businesses?
So let me start, first of all, with a case study that we have in the APAC market, where with one of the leading telcos, what they have done is they chose Wi-Fi offloading, and while the operator already had a primarily a 4G network, they still had a lot of density in certain pockets, and then wanted to make sure that they don't lose the customer, right? Because a lot of things depend on that, not losing the customer. And in order to do that, what they did was they launched this Wi-Fi offloading almost 2.5 years back. And what happened? And remember, this 2.5 year back when they started was, initially with a pilot to see if people are really latching onto this network. And then they said, okay, now we need to go wider. And that's when pandemic hit. So on one side, we realize, oh my God, with pandemic, most likely all the patterns are going to change, because people, I mean, you think of access points which are located in areas where usually you will see a lot of footfall. All of a sudden, the pattern has changed. But despite that, we noticed around 50 million subscribers, they registered and they started using Wi-Fi offloading, right? And this was because of the seamless experience that we could give to the users. And for us, it was challenging because we had to understand not only which technology the user in, which location the user in, which device or operating system the user in, but also the consumption behavior pattern as well. So combining that edge intelligence, that device with intelligence, combining with the technology, we could ensure that the seamless experience to the user we should be able to provide. So I think when it comes to ensuring the seamless experience, I think we know that Wi-Fi is going to complement 5G as well because of interconnectivity, because of industrial setup. And what we saw was that with Wi-Fi access points, the CAPEX spend compared apple to apple, even in case of 4G, reduced by almost 4.5 to 5x. So that's a significant CAPEX reduction, right? Secondly, we saw 15% in additional consumption of data on Wi-Fi as compared to LTE. And fourth, we saw that the amount of time that the user is always connected also increases by 28%. So we're talking about a significant change in the behavior of the customer as a result of them being able to seamlessly latch onto Wi-Fi without any interruption, so that they keep on doing what they're doing, what they love doing, with what is business critical for them, or what is experience-wise critical for them.
Thanks, Ravi. Yeah, I guess it's certainly safe to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot. Has changed the way that we've all kind of worked and done business, and there's a lot of technology available now that's making things a lot better than it would have been a few years ago. But that's great to hear, Ravi. Thank you. Let's end it on a bit of an easy one here, Ravi, if you don't mind. So as I mentioned off the top, STL is a member of WBA. Your company has been very enthusiastically participating in our events, in our programs, and our projects over the years. Can you just share your thoughts on your membership in the WBA, and what benefits do you think it's brought to your company?
Absolutely, Brian. And I mean, obviously, this is very close to my heart as well because we have been WBA member. It's a very close-knit community, but creating a huge impact to how we are going to consume the data in the future. And the reason why I say this is this team really focuses on the key technologies which are under the umbrella of Wi-Fi, like looking at the Hotspot 2.0, Passpoint, getting Passpoint certified devices, 6E adoption, looking at 7 as well. But most importantly, it's also a very good forum for us to learn from each other. It becomes an ideation factory, because when you're looking at how different use case applications are being built, each of us can understand where to take advantage of, and how some of the problems we can bring to the community to solve as well. So it's been really critical or instrumental in us for us to understand how we should go ahead with adoption of Hotspot 2.0, Passpoint, certified access points, how we should look at some of the use cases as far as the device sensing, sensing of the people and consumption pattern is concerned. So I would say, WBA has been a great platform for us, both as a consumer, as a producer, to learn from each other. Last but not the least is, for any initiative to be successful, you need adoption, and driving the adoption with the device makers, with the industry contributors, pioneers. It is very, very critical. And this body has been really doing a great job over there.
Well, thank you, Ravi. And as always, we're thrilled to have STL on board, and we're really looking forward to hopefully seeing you all face to face in 2022 at our events. But Ravi, I think we can wrap it up here for now, unless there's anything else you want to say to end this on.
No, I'm really looking forward to have a face-to-face interaction as well. I would love Wi-Fi and connectivity. We are really missing people touch. So looking forward to the Dubai event.
Agreed. We are too, Ravi. And again, thank you to yourself and STL for your support throughout the years, for sponsoring our 2021 events. And we look forward to seeing you in the new year, Ravi. Have a very happy holiday, and we look forward to seeing you in 2022.
Pleasure being here as well. Thank you, Brian.